Yeah, but is Commissioner Williams on board?
Mayor Harvey, Major Post is working with Commissioner Williams to get him connected.
Okay.
Yeah, he was still, if he's not able to, then I'll assist Commissioner Williams.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem.
Julie, will you mind doing the invocation for us, please?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Mayor Harvey, it looks like we're streaming live now on Facebook.
Okay.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. This is Mayor Cornell Harvey, along with the City Commission, Commissioner Julie Martin, Commissioner Johnny Cason, and Mayor Pro Tem Felicia Harris. Commissioner Williams is trying to get in as well. I'd like to call to order the Brunswick City Commission meeting dated Wednesday, April the 21st. This is a virtual teleconference meeting via Zoom, excuse me, and it's streaming live on Facebook as well. I would like to ask Commissioner Julie Martin to do our invocation, and I will do the Pledge of Allegiance.
If you would, please bow your heads. Lord, we thank you for this day and each day that you give us, for we know it's truly a gift. We ask that you would guide and direct our thoughts, help us to be mindful of each citizen that lives within our community, because they are an individual, they are a person, and each person matters. So we ask that you would guide and direct us. We thank you for all that you provide for us each day. And we ask all this in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, from which come one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Again, thank everyone for joining in with us this evening. Before I get into our agenda, is there any additions or deletions to our agenda that we need to adhere to for this meeting?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we amend the agenda to include, perhaps as item number 8A, to consider approval to confirm the recommended modifications for the Gloucester Street resurfacing project and have the city manager, McDuffie, communicate with Georgia Department of Transportation to finalize the project.
I got a motion. Can I have a second? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Motion second to add item 8A, approval of the Gloucester Street amendment for letters to be sent back to GDOT by our city manager. All in favor, please say aye and raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same right?
Oppose.
One opposed? Okay, Commissioner Harris, Mayor Pro Tem, did you vote?
Yes, I said aye.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I did not hear you. Okay, that motion carries 3-1. Thank you. So we add that item as item 8A. Now, as we move into our presentation for our agenda, item number 1, Rachel Thompson, Executive Director of Glen Environmental Coalition, to give a presentation regarding Hercules Pine-Over Cleanup Plan. Ms. Thompson, are you available?
I am. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to get my screen shared. All right, y'all should be able to see that there. And thank you guys so much for allowing me to be here with you this evening. For those that don't know, my name is Rachel Thompson. I am the Executive Director of the Glen Environmental Coalition. We are a nonprofit based here in Brunswick, Georgia, working towards a clean environment and healthy economy for citizens of coastal Georgia. So we wanted to take a moment this evening to share some of our thoughts and concerns about the Hercules and Pine-Over Corrective Action Plan. We know that some folks from GeoSyntech provided a presentation for y'all a few weeks ago, and then I also know that some of the city commissioners joined the public meeting that was held on March 31st. And so we just kind of wanted to swing back around and give y'all a little update on some of the main concerns that we have. And there's some good things in there as well. So just a little summary of what we're going to cover today. Brief site history. I always like to provide that, even though I know at this point, most of us are probably pretty familiar, but just in case anyone listening might not be familiar, we'll go through that, talk a little bit about the corrective action plan and a little more details about what that means for us, and then some of our main areas of concern. So the original plant was operated by a company called Urian Rosin and Turpentine Company. They extracted rosin from pine stumps via a steam solvent distillation process to manufacture wood rosins, turpentine, and pine oil. So that started in around 1910, 1911. Post World War I, they joined forces with Hercules Powder Company, and they continued to create those pine oils, resins, and turpentine. Hercules then started manufacturing toxaphene in 1948, and they continued to manufacture toxaphene until 1990. Those are both historical photos there from advertisements provided by Hercules back in pre-1950s and post them creating toxaphene. Toxaphene was banned in 1990 due to its harmful effects on human health and the environment because of the various different types of industrial activities that took place on the site over the past 110 years. There are numerous contaminants of concern at the site, including but not limited to toxaphene, arsenic, PCBs, benzene, chlorobenzenes, chloroform, and about a dozen others that they're pretty technical in nature and they're not as well known. So I'm happy to share those with you, but I figured I'd just kind of point out some of the more well-known chemicals. So looking through the corrective action plan, one of the first things that you'll notice in there is that the EPD actually describes it as a living document. So this is something that will be updated over time. And I just kind of wanted to point out some of the main milestones that are actually included in the schedule of the corrective action plan. So first, this is part of where we are right now in the administrative milestones. So this is where the EPD is actually requiring public input and public comment. So right now we're within this public comment period, which it actually ends on May 10th. That's what the public notice is stated. This corrective action plan was submitted on February 1st. So I think that their intention was maybe to start the public comment a little bit sooner. But anyways, that public comment period ends on May 10th. The comments will go to the Environmental Protection Division where they'll be reviewed. Any revisions to the plan will take place hopefully between July and August. And then from there, there's actually going to be another public comment period. And hopefully we will be successful in our requests to ask for a public hearing at that point, which is going to be another opportunity for the Environmental Protection Division, Hercules, and Pinova to present this plan to the public. And then as of right now, early January is when they're planning on amending the actual hazardous waste permit that will include this corrective action plan. So, and I know this is a lot, but the reason why I wanted to show you guys this is because at the same time, some of these interim corrective measures are actually already taking place. So if you notice along the same timeline between January, November, January, August, and you can go down the whole list, there's actually some cleanup that's going to begin and is actually starting. So I just wanted to point that out because I think there might be some confusion as to when the activities are actually going to be starting. And some of them are actually already in progress and they're already starting. So some of the main components of these interim corrective measures are work on soils, groundwater contamination, and some vapor intrusion around the buildings on site. They're also going to be working on activities to inform future corrective measures. So this is basically they're still studying some of the source areas. So where certain areas are that have higher levels of contamination, especially with regard to groundwater. And then there's additional risk assessments that will be taking place next year as well. So we'll get into a little bit of they've described it, adaptive approach and ways for our community to stay involved throughout this portion, because that's really going to be some action items next year. And then, of course, phase 3 is future corrective measures. So that's post February 2023. So throughout a lot of the public meetings, Hercules and their contractors with Geosyntec continue to talk about this adaptive approach. We do have some concerns with the concept of an adaptive approach, mainly because the way that the cleanup has been managed at this site, they have not been efficient with meeting their deadlines. That was one of the biggest concerns when we actually went through the hazardous waste permit renewal process last year. Was we have copies of letters that the Environmental Protection Division has actually sent Hercules and Pinova, basically stating that they are incapable of meeting their deadlines. So when you look at this, there's all these different objectives and milestones, and you have questions like, have the interim objectives been met? And you kind of you can end up getting caught in this circle where we never actually get to what we call operations, maintenance, and monitoring. And we don't want to get caught in this circle, okay? We want to get down here, but we have been caught up here for the past 2.5 decades, where there's been a lot of monitoring, which is great, but not a lot of remediation and not a lot of cleanup. So one thing that's in the corrective action plan that is really good is that Hercules is going to be providing the Environmental Protection Division with updates to the project schedule annually. So the schedule that I shared on the pages previously, they're going to have to provide updates to the EPD every year. And so that does give us an opportunity to check in and see how things are progressing and see how those timelines are changing. We will be requesting some type of public notice or public meeting that goes along with those schedule updates to keep our community informed on an annual basis. And we think that it would be good. We'll get to hopefully what the city can help do in the public comment period right now in a little bit, but that is something that I think is really important, that Hercules, Pinova, and their contractors come back to us on an annual basis to provide updates to the community. The other thing that's really important with this adaptive approach is, if you notice on this diagram, there are some really important questions. Are the interim objectives being met? We think that if this pops up, this would be something that would require either a public meeting or a public hearing, some sort of public participation where our community is informed, the objectives haven't been met, why haven't they been met, and what are they going to do next? So you'll notice there's a secondary question after here, is it acceptable So in some cases, they might actually, even though the objectives haven't been met, they might continue to move forward with this plan. I think our community deserves to know when that's happening. And then also in the latter, if it's not acceptable, again, they're going to be going back up here to designing and implementing corrective measures and cleanups. So this is a really, really important time for our community to have that contact with Hercules Pinova and their contractors that say, hey, okay, this is what's going on. This is what we've learned. The other one is down here. So if we can get ourselves out of this circle and they develop those final corrective actions and we start moving towards operations, maintenance, and monitoring, which is almost close to the end of hazardous waste cleanup process. You'll see down here, there's also a point where it says, are those objectives being met? And the answer is no. And that puts us all the way back up here. So again, those are kind of the two most important parts of this adaptive management approach that we are going to request that public meetings be required for Hercules to be held. This, in some cases, this is above and beyond what they are required to do by law. So in saying that, I just want to make sure that the commission is aware that if EPD was to require Hercules to hold these public meetings, it is above and beyond what they're required to do by law for this permit. So there is a chance that they will not require these public meetings, but I think if our community comes together and requests it, we have a better chance of getting that those public meetings and those additional public participation opportunities. And if y'all have any questions, feel free to jump in and just let me know. But I'm just going to keep plugging along to try to maintain a good timeline here. So we're going to transition into talking about groundwater. Now there are a number of constituents that they are testing for groundwater, but one of the most important ones, I think, and the contaminant specifically that has spread the farthest is benzene. And so I know that there's a lot of colors, there's a lot of just things going on this map. To just give you a few important markers, the areas in orange that are outlined are the concentration contours. So basically this is an estimation of where they believe the groundwater contamination plume edges are. So you can see at the surface over here, it's a little bit smaller, and then as the water gets deeper, it actually starts to grow. And I do have a 3D model of that as well. If anyone wants to see that, I can pull that up. But benzene is a heavy molecule. So when it gets into the groundwater, it sinks. Okay, so that's what's happening here. The benzene is sinking down into the groundwater, into the superficial aquifer, and it's hitting what we call the upper confining layer, which is basically just a clay layer, and then it spreads out. So this is the most recent groundwater models that we have seen. We're going to zoom in on this guy over here. And so again, this is the outline of the concentration contours. The most important one is this 500. So this is 500 micrograms per liter. And those are high elevated levels of benzene in the groundwater that would cause concern for public health. So for example, if there were any drinking water wells in those areas, we would certainly want those to get pulled, because we wouldn't want the benzene to be getting pulled into any drinking water sources. the picture to the left here is from 2014. So all the areas in red are the 500 micrograms per liter down here. So it's hard to see, but this actually has grown in size. And so it shows that that groundwater plume is changing. And so one of the things that we are requesting is these green monitoring wells over here, they actually haven't been sampled. So we would like for those monitoring wells that are already in place to be sampled. And then if you notice, again, this is the 2014 map. This is the edge of the groundwater contamination plume. It's already underneath Dupree Creek. And they have not done any sampling on the east side of Dupree Creek in terms of groundwater monitoring.
Why? Like, why haven't they? If they've already got stations set up to do it, why have they not monitored it?
So, and it is this tricky area. So like this property is not owned by Hercules or Pinova. The property across the creek over here, again, this is Dupree Creek, this blue area. This is not owned by Hercules and Pinova. And then down here as well, this is where the Terry Creek Mobile Home Park and neighborhood is. So they do have to, they are required by law to get permission from the property owners to install those monitoring wells.
Rachel,
so
they said they had been monitoring Terry Creek.
So they're monitoring the water in Terry Creek, but they haven't monitored groundwater east of Dupree Creek.
East?
Yes, east. So we've got Highway 17. This is Dupree Creek, and then this is Terry Creek down here. And so they have to put the monitoring wells on land. They can't put them in the water. So they wouldn't be able to put the groundwater monitoring wells here. They would have to do it on land over here, actually in the marsh.
But if the monitoring wells are already in position, have they not been given permission to take samples and monitor it?
Because these monitoring wells are already in place, they should be able to monitor it with no problem. They might have plans to monitor them, but that's part of what we want to make sure. We just want to make sure that, especially for these wells that are already here, that they do facilitate the monitoring at those wells.
Because it seems like you would need to stretch the borders a little bit and see what's happening out beyond everything else that's happening to make sure that whatever actions are being taken are containing the contamination. And if they're not, then something needs to be done.
And I believe these three are newer wells. I'd have to look to see when they were actually installed, but I know that between some of the 2014 reports that I was looking at and the corrective action plan, there was an addition of a few monitoring wells. So it's a possibility that they just haven't monitored those yet, but they installed them with the intention to monitor them as they continue to investigate the groundwater monitoring. So again, in terms of articulating a meaningful comment, what we would say is that we would certainly want to make sure that the groundwater in these monitoring wells is actually being sampled. And then we're asking for, actually go to the next slide if that's okay. Installing monitor wells to further delineate the groundwater contamination plume east of Dupree Creek. So basically just hopping the creek there. And then also north of the outfall ditch where those wells already are located, and then south of the outfall ditch, kind of closer to the Terry Creek mobile home neighborhood. Something that was interesting in the response to comments, the EPD actually stated EPD doesn't have the authority to monitor private wells. So what that basically means is that they can't, they can ask, obviously. So if somebody has a private well, they can ask, can we actually test the water in your well? But unless, it's this kind of cyclical nature where unless they knew for sure that there was any chemicals of concern in the well, they can't forcefully monitor those private wells. So they still have to ask for permission. But again, that's where we're kind of asking Hercules to install some monitoring wells on those other areas. It would require permission from the property owner, but it would, again, if we go further back to this map, which this is a much better picture, which is why I like to show this one. It's a little bit more straightforward than this picture here. But, north up here and around, because we do know that this groundwater plume is changing, it's migrating. And so we want to continue to monitor the outer edges of that groundwater plume to make sure that it is, just making sure we know where it's going. And specifically with regard to the neighborhood over here, which is the Terry Creek mobile home park there. You'll have any more questions for me? Because I'm gonna scoot on to something other than groundwater.
Yes,
How fast are those plumes moving?
So the groundwater here, you can see some of these blue arrows that actually kind of shows like how it's migrating. Okay, so you've got like one that comes all the way across here. There's a little one right there. So that is a positive. Again, the Terry Creek mobile home park is down in this direction, and it's not migrating southeast. So it's moving kind of more directly east. So there's a chance that the groundwater contamination at this time will actually never reach that neighborhood, which is great. But again, of course, we need to continue monitoring to make sure that that doesn't happen. But the groundwater moves anywhere from 30 to 50 feet a year here, which is extremely slow in comparison to some other areas in the country. Because we're so flat, our water doesn't move very quickly. So
yes, I have a question. This is Commissioner Williams. I don't know if you
sure.
can hear me. Are they going to do any testing outside of the Pinova properties as far as monitoring?
So that is a question that we actually asked in the public meeting as well. This dark burgundy or red line is the property line. And the question that we asked was, are they going to do any additional soil testing, especially in the neighborhoods surrounding the site? Because we are aware that, especially in the Goodyear neighborhood and some of the other surrounding neighborhoods, there has been extensive testing and soil removal. But they said that I'm pretty sure their response was that they were unaware of any additional areas of concern off-site, and which leads me to believe that at this time, no, they will not be doing any additional sampling or remediation off-site. That is something that, again, the city can request if, there were specific neighborhoods or specific properties that were of concern. Certainly, we can include that in comments on the corrective action plan to do additional sampling in those neighborhoods. Y'all got any more questions before I scoot away from groundwater contamination?
Rachel, are you saying that they are not monitoring the drinking water wells out at Terry Creek?
So they have done testing in the private wells that are owned in that neighborhood. We have attempted to get the most recent date. So like AKA, when was the last time they tested those private wells? We have been unable to get a hard answer as to when the most recent testing was done. So we know that they have done it, but we don't know
I
how.
know when I served on the joint water sewer that we got tests. We were working on that when I served on that commission, and I know that we had the tests. That the wells were being tested out there.
And what year was that, Commissioner Kaysen?
It's been three years. Cornell, how long have you been there now?
I've been here since 2018. So yeah,
Johnny, I've been there since 2018, at least for sure. So it was before that. So Don, I think you were there about 16 or 17.
I have seen the tests that were done and actually hand carried them to the joint water sewer. I can give you the name of the person out there, Rachel, you can get in touch with that can tell you what's going on out there.
That would be great.
Be happy to do that.
And we have always advocated for Hercules and Pinova to test those individual wells, especially the two properties that are kind of on that peninsula in the Terry Creek Mobile Home Park that, you know, you can see them when you're going over the bridge that goes over Terry Creek. We think that it should be done on an annual basis at a minimum. But again, with this was the response that most recently that we have gotten from the Environmental Protection Division about their ability to monitor those private wells. So it is a little bit disheartening, but I think that, you know, we continue to have to advocate for the residents and the properties out there and making sure that testing is done in timely, efficient manner so that the individuals that live out there and their families are protected from any potential contamination that can be migrating towards and underneath their homes.
So what efforts do they make to try to contact these private property owners and ask them about testing their wells?
I'm not sure. And I know that some of those properties are actually rental properties too. So, you know, if they send letters, it very well could, you know, land in the mailbox of a renter and not the actual owner. Because they are rental properties, the actual inhabitants can change every year. And so I don't deny that it can be a little bit difficult, but, you know, again, it's not, in my opinion, it's not an excuse. There should be a consistent effort to engage those residents and talk to them about, you know, the groundwater contamination and the risks that may exist, and make sure that they have a relationship with the people that are living there so that they can monitor those wells whenever necessary. Okay. I'm gonna scoot on to the next section. So, oh, actually, you know what? There was one other thing I wanted to mention about the groundwater. I'm sorry. So one other question that we had, and if you guys remember from the presentation, they did talk about bioremediation of the groundwater plume. So using bacteria, injecting bacteria actually into the groundwater, and the bacteria actually digests the benzenes. This is actually a technology that our organization has long advocated to come to this community. So we are glad that they have selected that remedy. Again, want to point out some of the good things that they are planning to do. They're going to be installing two bioremediation injection areas. The first is right along here, and the second one is along this area here. But again, I just want to point out that there's already some groundwater contamination that has moved beyond those skirts. And so that is another question that we will be asking, is basically what is their plan to address the groundwater that is to the east of the areas where they plan on installing the bioremediation and along Highway 17 there. So just wanted to point that question out as well, because obviously this area of groundwater will need to be addressed. From the public meeting, what it sounds like is they're going to be installing those bioremediation areas, and it's kind of like a pilot test where they're testing it out to make sure it works. And then they're going to be utilizing that technology at a larger scale once they are sure that it works. But we want to make sure that obviously the groundwater contamination that's mostly east of Highway 17 in these areas is addressed, and they use the similar technology as long as it's successful to contain that area, those areas of the groundwater contamination as well. Okay. Sorry, I didn't have that bullet point written down here, so I almost forgot it. Okay, and then this is the last piece that I wanted to share with y'all today. So they shared something, a technology called In-Situ Solidification, which during the public meeting and the presentations to the city, they did state that this is a technology that has been used locally, and that is true. We actually have 2 locations of in-situ solidification in Brunswick. The Brunswick Wood Preserving Superfund site has in-situ solidification. Again, basically what they're doing is they're hardening the area. So the best way I can describe it, a kind of good analogy, is they're basically cementing the soil so that the soil and the contamination that's in the soil cannot migrate, it can't move, and therefore people cannot be exposed to the contamination there. So again, we have that in place at Brunswick Wood Preserving. I want to point out that Brunswick Wood Preserving is the Superfund site on the north side of Glenn County. That's about 80 or so acres. And so they did substantial in-situ solidification on that site. The other one is Hercules 009 Superfund site, which is located behind the Nally dealership by the Spur and Walmart. The parking lot behind the Nally dealership that has a lot of their vans and other, transit commercial type vehicles, underneath that has also, they have also utilized the in-situ solidification process. So yes, it has been used here. And yes, it contains the contamination. However, it does not remove the contamination from our community. We do believe that excavation is the best long-term solution for contamination, especially if you look at this legend for the scale and you compare it to the size. This is maybe 150 by 300 feet. So the square footage of this area is relatively small. And we believe that because of its size, it should prompt removal versus contain in place. I also want to just point out this right here. So they are excavating some soil from this area in the blue area, but surface soils to be excavated and consolidated in the in-situ solidification treatment area. So basically what that means is they're going to dig this out, they're going to put it over here, and then they're going to solidify this whole thing. So we believe that that area should be excavated and disposed of in a hazardous waste, proper hazardous waste landfill, rather than being included in the in-situ solidification process. In the corrective action plan, it describes that they would have to excavate about 5 feet down. So it's about 6,500 cubic yards. Again, to kind of equivalent that over on the Terry Creek side of things, the EPA has actually removed like tens of thousands of cubic yards of soil. So we think that because this is a smaller amount, it really is deserving of being excavated rather than being contained in place. And the approximate cost of the in-situ solidification is about $2 million, which as of right now, the excavation would cost more than that. We don't know how much more, but we certainly think that it's worth considering, and it's worth figuring out an estimate of how much it would cost to have that, the chemicals, the contamination, those toxic areas removed from this site instead.
You know, Rachel, you're 100% right. You're talking about a technique that was used at Brunswick wood preserving that's in a very remote location. You're talking about here right in the middle of the city.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
It is what you're talking about. And who knows what else is, that's 500 acres in there is what you're talking about. So I agree with you wholeheartedly that we need to take a stand here and ask them to rethink this.
Absolutely. And I wanted to include this picture. This is the what they call the toxaphene tank farm. This is a map that was generated using the NOAA sea level rise projections. Now this image is actually showing two things. Okay, this image shows what about a 4 to 5 foot storm surge would look like. So if we have another hurricane, we were very, and of course I say this understanding that there were a number of homes that were flooded in hurricanes Matthew and Irma, but in some cases, because of how those storms hit, they did not hit us at a peak high tide, and so the flooding could have been even worse. You know, like closer to 6 or 10 feet, also depending on the severity of the storm. You know, if it was a category 2 or 3 versus category 1, something like that. So this is what a 4 to 5 foot storm surge would look like, and it would actually inundate this area. But also this, if you're looking at sea level rise predictions, this is about 4 to 5 feet of our sea level actually rising, which the projections for that are, you know, model based. It could be anywhere from, you know, 2050 to 2080. But even the 2050 projections to me are pretty alarming, because we're finally on the verge of cleanup activities, and this site has been designated for almost 25 years. So if you add another 25 years to that, some of the areas of the site will be underwater. And again, you know, we rather see the chemicals be removed, those hazards be completely removed from our community. And that way, as we have a shifting coastline, there's enough challenges that we're going to face. For example, the fact that one of our local largest employers may or may not be underwater in the next 20 or 30 years. That's an extremely large challenge that we'll have to figure out. But at least at that point, hopefully the chemical contamination will be removed, and we can have a better opportunity to adapt and, migrate our industry, and we don't have to worry about those chemical hazards reappearing or re-exposing. So with that, that is the end of my presentation today. And what I would like is, sorry, I'm trying to, okay, there we go. Trying to get my full screen back on for Zoom. What we would like to request, the Glen Environmental Coalition, is, I guess, I don't know if it would be a permission or a blessing of the commission to work with the city attorney to develop a resolution, or just kind of consult as needed, so that the city commission can submit comments during the public comment period. We would like to be able to work with y'all to get that developed by the next commission meeting, because that will be before that public comment period. And, we're happy to include any the questions that you asked, like, for example, Commissioner Williams asked if they were going to be doing any additional sampling off-site. We're happy to include that in there, along with some of the concerns that I brought up today. And if y'all have any other questions, I'm happy to take them now. And of course, please feel free to reach out to me after today as well if you have any other questions about the cleanup plan at the site.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you for your presentation. Commissioner, as Rachel asked, if you have any questions, please get with her. If you have questions now, please go ahead and ask those questions, and she can entertain those. And if not, you can send those questions directly to her. And hopefully we will get this under control. Rachel, one question though for me is, you mentioned that some of those in your outline, as some questions may come up. Are you all going to initiate the public hearings when those questions come up?
Like throughout the
yes,
throughout the adaptive process.
Yes.
Well, we hope that Hercules and EPD will require them, but if they do not, then yes, we try to stay involved and make sure that the community has a seat at the table no matter what. So absolutely, if the responsible party or the state agency will not do it, then we would be happy to provide that service to the community.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Thompson? If not, thank you, Rachel, for your presentation. Very well presented. And I tell you, it really caused us to think about our community a lot. I'm very glad that you all are really concerned about our community and about our residents as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much, and y'all enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll talk soon.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, I'm moving right along for item number 2 on nominations. This is authority. This is Glen Brunswick Memorial Authority, 3 nominations. As you know, that we submit 3 nominations to them. This is to fill the expired term of Robert C. Turner. The 3 names that are there for submission is Robert C. Turner. He's asking to be reappointed. Ms. Karen Polite and Ms. Dolores Harrison. So I would entertain a motion to submit those 3 names to the hospital, Glen Brunswick Memorial.
I'll make a motion that we forward all 3 nominations to the Glen Brunswick Memorial Authority Hospital.
Second.
All right, motion second for submittal of those 3 names. The names of Robert C. Turner, Karen Polite, and Dolores Harrison to the Glen Brunswick Memorial Hospital Authority for their consideration. Any further questions or comments? Hearing all in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same right. Hearing nothing from the opposing side, that motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much, commissioners. All right, item to be considered for approval. Consider approval of April 7th, 2021 work session and regular scheduled meeting minutes. That was in our package. Please take a second to peruse and I entertain a motion, please.
The only small correction I have is that it was not actually Andra Fuller that made the presentation for the
Was her daughter?
African American. It was her daughter, and I just can't remember her name, but it was not Audra. It was her daughter.
Okay. That correction was made by our city clerk.
Other than that, I would make a motion that we approve the work session minutes and the regular scheduled meetings with this correction on dated April 7th, 2021.
Second.
Second.
Motion is second for the approval of the April 7th, 2021 work session and also the amended regular scheduled meeting minutes the same date. Further questions or comments? Hearing all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed have the same right. Hearing nothing from the opposing side, that motion carries. Thank you, commissioners. Item number 4, consider approval of resolution number 2021-05, Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, FY 2021 Annual Action Plan. Mr. Bravaro will be presenting. David Bravaro?
I'm here. It's David Bravo.
Bravo.
And I will initially present this information. David is our community development specialist, and he will assist.
Okay.
He did help and assist Miss Mack when she was here prepare this information. This is the annual plan for our CDBG, and this process, of course, started months ago. I will share my screen. Hopefully, I can share the right one. Let's see. Just looking at the annual action plan, of course, we go through this process every year and have to have these approvals done as a part of the CDBG process. Our allocation for this year is $383,000 for the program year. Of course, 20% is for, or usually used for, program administration. We have to have 15% distributed to subrecipients, and then the remaining is applied to the city programs. We didn't have substantial changes to the plan this year. Basically, as you can see right here, the budget for the plan, we are presenting $155,000 for housing rehabilitation, $50,000 for the improvement of public facilities, and that's specifically for the senior center to provide a new roof for that building. There's $10,000 for services to the homeless, and other services to subrecipients is $40,000. We have $51,000 to remove slum and blight, and that's basically for demolitions of housing in our community. And then approximately, $2,000 for education and outreach. And then the planning and administration, our 20% is $74,000. It's substantially the same information or similar projects. We have gone through 2 public hearings thus far and are presenting this information to the commission for approval so that it can be sent to HUD for final approval. And I'll stop my sharing and give David an opportunity to make comment.
Thank you, Ms. McDuffie. And yes, we have a deadline of May 14th to submit the annual action plan. As Ms. McDuffie pointed out, a lot of these items were actually addressed when Dominic was here. I would like to point out to you that one of the items that we added again this year is demolition, which is one of the areas that the city lacked in the past. There was no budget in previous years to address the slum and blight in the city. And we felt that if we use that money to target those specific areas or homes, it would attract businesses, and it will be in the interest of the city to use that money for that purpose.
I have a question. Will any of these funds be used, I guess, on like commercial properties? I'm thinking about the North Street corridor at this particular point.
At this point, we don't truly have a specific budget for that. CDBG is very specific when it comes to using their money. Their main target is basically the community that is basically in the areas of low and moderate income people. That's the areas that we target specifically. So to your point, we don't really have a budget for that area.
I have a question regarding the improvement of public facilities and infrastructure, the 50,256 allocation, one public facility improvement to benefit 135 people.
That is
Can you
correct.
provide specifics on that, please? What is that? What?
That's for the roof at the senior center.
Okay. So that's in addition to what they were allotted
When you say allotted, you mean for the SPLOST?
or the subrecipient?
Actually, it's for the city's senior center. So, I mean, that building is a public facility and the city pays for all the maintenance for that building. So it's not given to the subrecipient, so to say.
Okay, there's a this is this amount, and then they are also a subrecipient.
Yes, that's for programming.
Correct.
Okay, wait a minute. I must be looked at something wrong then. Okay. Let me go back through and I'll come back to that.
They are considered a subrecipient within the program, and they were allotted $50,256 to basically replace 10,000 square feet of roof. But this is under the CDBG program specifically. They submitted the application, and it did fit the profile and guidelines under the CDBG program.
Okay.
Reason
So
being is because they have 130 members. They are all senior citizen, and I'm going to say about 80% of them are considered low income. They only live of Social Security or a small pension.
Right. I understand that. I'm not questioning the senior center. I'm just asking because I saw that they're receiving an amount as a subrecipient, and then I see this amount as well. So I'm saying, are they receiving this amount plus the other subrecipient amount as well?
Yes. And
Okay, that's my question, because when I looked at the description for this, I saw that the subrecipient amount, if I'm not mistaken, is for breezeway and the roof and stuff too. So that's why I'm asking this question.
I see.
Okay, and it may have been that the description was included in there, but the programming is what they receive as a subrecipient, and then the roofing was considered as part of the public facility. But we'll make sure, I'll make sure that that's not a duplication of funding.
Okay, and that's what I wanted to make sure, that when we're submitting this information, we want to just make sure that we have the definitions correct. Because I mean, I didn't sit on it this year or last year, but in the past I have been a party to sitting on that, and so I know that the subrecipient funds are specifically for programming, and the changing or addition of programs and stuff like that. So when I saw that definition, I said, okay, so are they getting this for both sides, or I just wanted to get clarity on what I saw.
You're correct, Commissioner Harris. What happens is we have 6 subrecipients, and what happens, 5 of those are going to be public services, which is what you're referring to. The senior center specifically falls under another category, which is public facilities.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're right. The wording is kind of confusing. We should have probably said 5 public services in 1 public facility, and that would pretty much clear that we're talking about two different things. So they're not double dipping on both ends. They're only getting
Right,
the money
that's-
for the roof. So you're absolutely right. Yes.
I just don't want us to, get caught up in the fine details or get misconstrued information or for them to misinterpret information.
Correct.
Okay, commissioners, you heard the presentation by our city manager and also Mr. Bravo as well about the CDBG 2020 annual action plan. You noticed we also a discussion about what's happening at the senior citizen center as well. Any further questions or comments?
I just want to say, I think it was thought out very well. I saw the additions. I saw the allocations for the sub recipients. I think that each of those are well deserving. I especially like the inclusion of the demolition allotment so that we can address the blighted problems that we have in the city. And I think even with Brian now being in his position with his new law firm, that he can help us even the more, not just through the land bank, but also through this process of tackling and addressing our to me our major problem with blighted properties, and that's the titling of the air properties.
I agree, Mayor Pro
That's
Tem.
one of our major problems. So I think you all did an awesome job.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any further comments, commissioners? I entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we accept the action plan as presented.
Second.
Motion second for approval of the, really is a resolution that we're gonna do for the community development block grant 2021 annual action plan. Are there any further questions or comment? One question I know that this annual action plan is on display for our public. I think it's at the library. Am I presuming correctly?
We reach out to every public avenue to make sure the public was informed of what we were doing. As Ms. McDuffie pointed out, we did 2 hearings.
Okay.
We published on the paper, we use social media. So yes, we did different venues this year. We were more proactive than previous years.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, any further questions, commissioners? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed have the same right. Hearing nothing from the opposing side, that motion carries. Thank you. All right, item number 5. Consider approval of resolution 2021-06 substantial amendment for the CARES Act funds and to utilize the new fund allocation, CDBG CV 3. Mr. Bravo, you present, or either Ms. McDuffie presenting?
I will begin the presentation again. I can share my screen again, and looking at the CDBG C3. This is the second allocation for monies from the CARES Act, and we were able to secure another $148,000 of funding for programming in the community. The first funding we got, we used for testing and some other things when the pandemic first hit, and had some opportunities to serve the community. The biggest thing I wanted to say is that, we have been able to put more than $300,000 of CARES Act funding into the community to help impact, places and businesses that have been hit by COVID. This particular allocation, we are asking, and this has been submitted as an application process as well. But we are asking to allocate $80,000 for grants to assist businesses, and the CDBG will go through an RFP process to award those grants. There's also $22,000 for the second harvest to help with food assistance. And then 22,000 for food and shelter assistance for Faith Works. And then another $23,000 that we will use 20% to fund our administration of the program. This again is some additional, there's a resolution for the commission to approve this particular allocation of funding so that we can go forth with providing those assistance to those entities.
And I think it's important to emphasize the fact that the previous allocation under CDBG CV1, we mainly concentrated on health, food and shelter, which was the main concern of the city of Brunswick at the time of the pandemic, was in full swing. Now that we're considering, I guess, the recovery aspect of the pandemic, we felt that it was necessary to help the small businesses, especially minority and women. We have not dedicated any money to those areas of the community, and we felt that it was important to put some money into those areas to hopefully help those small businesses in the city of Brunswick. The food as well is something that is still needed due to the high unemployment and the fact that children are still being taught through Zoom at their homes instead of attending school. So we mainly consider those two main areas that are the main concern at this point under the CDBG CV3.
And the listing for the first allocation, I have it up on the screen right now. I'm sure you all have seen that in your packet. And again, this allocation, basically we would have over $370,000 of funding into the community.
And as you can see here under some of the allocations, we mainly target areas that involve health, testing sites. We allocated money for middle schools, mobile stations, hand sanitizer. I mean, we were all over the place with this one, and it paid off very well because we serve a large area of the city of Brunswick with this money. So like I said before, this is now the time to help the businesses, which we're gonna basically concentrate on now going forward. And again, providing food to the community, which is important.
Thank you, Mr. Bravo. Thank you for that. Thank you for the concern of our city government for our citizens as well. It's really a testament of getting in there, getting community involvement. That's really shows. We just don't talk about things. We actually do things. So that's really great. Commissioner, any comments you have? I saw Mayor Pro Tem comment was saying about you love the process. You're right. It's a very good process. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, Commissioners, what's your will and pleasure? No comments.
I make a motion that we accept the presentation of resolution number 2021-06 for the approval of a substantial amendment to the fiscal year 2019 annual action plan for the CV3 Community Development Block Grant Program.
Second.
Thank you. It's been motion second for approval of resolution number 2021-06, substantial amendment for CARES Act funds and to utilize the new fund allocation for CDBG CV3. Thank you so very much. Any further comments? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed have the same right? It appears the ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Bravo and our city manager, Ms. McDuffie. Moving right along, item number 6, consider approval of an environmental covenant with Georgia Environment Protection Division, EPD, for lead contaminated soils at Howard Coffin Park. Our city public works director and city engineer, Mr. Garrow Aberson, is presenting.
Good evening. This item has to do with Howard Coffin Park, as you said. specifically the southern half of the park, the area of the driveway off of Lanier Boulevard, which leads to the walking track and the Coastal Outreach soccer playing in that area there. Of course, as you know, that area was originally just salt marsh. And then as the city kind of developed in somewhere between the 30s and the 50s, probably that area was filled with dredge material and incinerated trash debris. After a while, around the 2000s, some soil sampling identified lead contamination there, lead concentrations in that soil, which exceeded the EPD's acceptable levels. So the city in the early 2000s initiated several projects to test that area, test the soils, and kind of try to determine the limits of that lead impacts, and then a couple of other projects to remediate and remove and replace some of that soils. The most recent one was completed in about 2013. They were getting that going about the time I came on with the city, and that area we removed several hundred yards of soil right just to the south of that driveway there, kind of up to the driveway, and replaced it with clean soil. But during that project, the testing in the north wall of that excavation identified some lead contamination or lead concentrations that extend underneath that roadway or underneath that asphalt driveway there. And so EPD is aware of that, and they offered that driveway, asphalt driveway, would serve as a sufficient cap for the soils, and that as long as that driveway was in place, that the contamination or the lead concentrations did not pose a health risk. So this agreement or this environmental covenant is to simply, we're agreeing that the asphalt will stay in place as a cap over that lead impacted soil, and that we will monitor that cap or that roadway probably annually and make sure that it stays intact, it's not disturbed, that kind of thing. If it ever is disturbed, then, whatever disturbance, the workers, whatnot, need to be prepared to deal with the soil with protective equipment, whatnot. But also for us, we'll probably at that time have to go into a remediation project and remove and replace that soil underneath that driveway if we ever disturb it. But this is simply we're saying that we have no plans to remove that driveway, and we plan to leave it in place as a cap over these soils. This document will be recorded with the deed records. Not that we ever have any intent of selling the property or transferring the property, but it would go along with the property if it were transferred. The adjacent property owners have been notified by certified mail. That's per EPD requirements. So that's simply it. We're just agreeing that this driveway will stay in place, that we have no plans to remove this driveway, and we'll leave it over that. And Brian has reviewed this, and I believe he's okay with it. I don't know if he has anything else he'd like to add to it.
No, I don't have anything to add other than I've reviewed it and approved it. It seems appropriate.
So I'm just wondering, the other soil that's around that area that doesn't have paving over it, it's all contaminated, isn't it? So, I mean, how can they say that everything's okay as long as you don't remove the asphalt and it all just fits under that cap?
Other testing has been done. Some sampling has been done on the north side of the driveway, and I think it was determined that soil is not contaminated on that side, or no lead impacts. So, I don't know if the field kind of progressed from the south to the north, and that's sort of where it ended, but there has been testing done, I know, on the north side of that driveway, which indicates that those soils are clean.
Quite a bit of remediation was done out there already.
Yes, sir. There have been multiple projects, I understand, to remove and replace a lot of that soil. And some of that may have been on the north side, may have already been replaced. That was before my time here.
So
That
we
was
can,
actually a garbage dump out there, and that's where all that stuff came from.
That's right.
so we can resurface and, but we can't remove.
That's right.
Okay, and we can add to, I mean, we can
That's
increase
right.
the size and the breadth of the pavement. Okay,
And we can remove, we just have to be prepared for remediation if we do.
sure.
We just go and cap all of it. That's crazy, but anyway, that's funny.
I'll make a motion that we approve the covenant with Georgia EPD regarding the contaminated soils of southern driveway access to Howard Coffin Park.
Second.
Can I ask it? It is, and I don't recall, was there some type of indemnification in this document of some sort, Brian, to say that the city is following the instruction, observation, testing procedures, whatever guidelines of the EPD, and indemnifying us in this process? Do we need that? Because that's I got a funny just sticking feeling on the inside of me. We don't want something coming back on us because EPD is saying this is good. And then later on, a couple of years down the road, they come back and say, oh, you all are responsible or liable, and you didn't do this or you didn't do that. When it comes to all this environmental contamination stuff.
Right. I think, in essence, we're granting a right in the environmental covenant to the EPD and to the city. So the city is saying on behalf of EPD, because we own it outright, we are putting this restrictive covenant or environmental covenant on the property. So we are doing this to the benefit of the EPD. So if they ever came back and said, you're in violation of this, if we violated it by removing the soil, it's gonna come back to us one way or the other. So I don't know how we could indemnify or they could indemnify us, because we're not granting them an interest in the property, ownership interest or anything like that, but we're doing this to the benefit of EPD to say this area that is defined in that survey will never be disturbed, and the city and the EPD are agreeing that this is the appropriate measure to take.
Okay, but we are agreeing based upon their guidance.
That's
because
correct.
the city doesn't have that authority to issue those guidance.
Right.
So primarily we're doing gonna do whatever the federal government is instructing us to do because we're not the experts in this matter.
I see what you're saying. Yes, that is correct. I think we could rely on that statement that if someone else were to come along and say, hey, you should have done more than what you did, we could say, no, we have entered in and granted an environmental covenant with the EPD. This is something that is granting rights to the EPD to say, this is the correct measure, this is the correct protection. And as the federal government can indemnify the city, but I think we would all be standing on one side of the aisle against the person saying, what we think you've done is incorrect. We'd say, no, this is what we've done. This is what was blessed by the EPD, and we've granted this covenant to protect and maintain that this soil never be disturbed.
Okay.
And it runs with the land in perpetuity. It's not going anywhere, and it is permanent.
All righty.
As stated, it was a motion and a second, the comments by Mayor Pro Tem duly noted. Any further comments? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed have the same right. Hearing nothing from the opposing side, I believe the ayes have it. Thank you. That motion carries. Our next item number 7, consider approval of a contract for purchase and installation of a new pavilion structure at Howard Coffin Park. Mr. Garrow Albertson is presenting again.
All right, we'll stay at Howard Coffin Park. We'll move a little to the north end of the park where we're installing the playground and new pavilions. As you know, we got a Land and Water Conservation Fund grant in 2018 to install pool shade structures, a playground, and a large kind of family pavilion. The pool shade structures have been installed. Y'all approved the playground a couple of weeks ago at a meeting, and that's scheduled for installation in May. And then this is the third item in our grant scope is to install pavilions, and what we're planning is 2 20 by 28 pavilions, which would be located on the north side of the tennis courts, of the existing tennis courts. There's a drawing in your packet. The playground will basically be centered along the north side of the tennis courts, and then there will be a pavilion on each side of that, sort of on the northeast and the northwest corners of that tennis court. The size of these pavilions, the intent is that they'd be a little larger than those existing pavilions out there. These, like I said, would be 20 by 28. They would accommodate probably about 3 picnic tables and a grill, and be appropriate for birthday parties or maybe family reunions or some other maybe multifamily or larger family gatherings. Tim Nelson, our project manager, put a lot of work into this, kind of researching these pavilions, determining exactly what we want. Once we decided that, we then put this out to bid or requested proposals, I should say, for that particular pavilion. Got several proposals back, and we are recommending one total cost of $59,270.81 from I believe it's Lanier Plans Incorporated. They represent Corcat Playgrounds and site amenities and that equipment organization. This cost includes furnishing of all furnishing materials, everything required for the concrete slab foundation, the entire structure, roof and everything, plus installation and construction of all of that. I believe if we were to approve this tonight, give the contractor or the manufacturer the go-ahead, we're looking at late July, early August installation timeframes. It'd be nice to get those installed by Labor Day if we do approve those. As far as cost-wise, we received a grant of $100,000 from the Land and Water Conservation Fund. So far, we've spent almost $24,000 on the shade structures, close to $148,000 on the playground, and then this is just over $59,000. So that puts us at a total project cost of just over $230,000 for these 3 amenities. Take away the $100,000 that will be reimbursed from the grant, we will have a City of Brunswick cost of $130,825. which will be paid out of our SPLOST 6 Howard Coffin Park line item. So that's all. I'll be glad to answer questions on those.
Will that deplete the SPLOST 6 allowance for Howard Coffin Park at that point?
No, there will be some remaining funds there, which we are planning for resurfacing of the walking track and paving of the parking area for the walking track on the Highway 17 side. Both of those items should be completed within the next couple of weeks. We're hoping to get the walking track done before, but it's been kind of wet out there. That area stays pretty wet with rain. So it's starting to dry out now. So we hope to have both of those resurfacing done in the next couple of weeks. That will leave a little small amount of money there. We will need some picnic tables and that kind of thing to go here. And we've also talked among our staff of a couple of other ideas for amenities out there.
And we also discussed maybe soliciting some of the companies and asking if they would like to sponsor either a portion of that installation of the pavilions or the total amount if possible. But we've kind of been trying to figure out how we would go about those solicitations.
That's great. It's good to see that we're doing something with Coffin Park. And we had a bad stigma against Coffin Park. The public was saying that we didn't do anything with that park, but I see now that we are actually making that park one of the best park in the city for recreation, that is. So I'm very happy to see that. Also, I was very happy to see planting some orange trees in Orange Park, which was really, really good this morning. That was done. And it seemed that our city Public Works is very concerned. Our whole city is concerned about recreation and our kids and our parks as well. Playgrounds, splash pad will go to Orange Park as well. And we're just doing some great things for our city. Some really, really great things. We're beginning to move efficiently and also expediently. So I really thank you all for doing that. Any other comments, commissioners, on this? Okay, I entertain a motion, please.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Howard Coffin Park Pavilion structures as presented at a cost of $59,270.31 with the city using SPLOST 6 funds, and the actual amount for the city is $130,825.31.
Thank you, Commissioner Martin, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for your second. It's been motion second for approval of installation of a new pavilion structure at Howard Coffin Park. And the amounts has been presented by Commissioner Martin. Any further comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing nothing from the opposing side, I believe the ayes have it. That motion carries. Okay, moving right along. We're at item number 8. Consider approval for the purchase of a 7 cubic yard dump truck from Rush Truck Centers in the amount of $88,542. Mr. Albertson, you're here again, sir, presenting.
One more time. We're asking for approval here for the repurchase, like you said, of a small dump truck. We have several dump trucks in our fleet, several different types of dump trucks, but this particular dump truck is a smaller dump truck, single axle, 7-yard dump truck. And the primary duty of this truck, primary task of this truck will be to support and tow and to haul aggregate for the asphalt patching machine that we purchased a couple of years ago. And when we're not using the asphalt patching machine, we can use it for other stuff, certainly. But like I say, the primary duty will be to support that machine. We're currently, when we bought the machine, we kind of brought back into service an old 1993 dump truck, similar size that we had there. And it's been working, but you know, it's 27, 28 years old, and we've kind of patched and pieced it back together. We're kind of at the end of the road with what we're getting out of that truck at this point. So just asking to approve a new truck, which is budgeted in our general fund budget in our equipment support division. We published the minimum specifications that we wanted and asked for bids. We got 4 bids on the truck from different distributors or dealers. You can see anywhere from $88,542 all the way up to over $146,000. We feel like the lowest price truck there from Rush Truck Centers is sufficient. We feel like that's a good truck at a good value. We would like to add an additional engine warranty on there. The truck comes with a 2-year warranty on the vehicle itself, but we would like to add a 5-year warranty on the engine for an additional $1,890, and that would put us at a total purchase price of $90,432.70. Like I said, that truck was budgeted in the fiscal year 2021 budget in the equipment support division. We actually budgeted $101,000 for the truck. So we are coming in a little bit under budget on that. So I can answer any questions you have on that.
Questions for Mr. Iverson, commissioners? Comments?
I think that truck will be used a whole lot because you're going to need some asphalt here before we get some paving done, I'm afraid.
You're right. We've got plenty of areas we can keep it busy for a long time.
I have a question. It's interesting that the Rush truck quote, which you then had to add in the warranty. So it brought it, I mean, neck and neck, literally, with Roberts Truck Center. So my question is, did the price that Roberts Truck Center provided, did it include a warranty, or was it going to be extra as well?
It would have been extra as well. It included the standard vehicle warranty, I believe a 2-year vehicle warranty, as this one did from Rush, but an additional warranty on the engine like this would have been extra on that also.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, those are the same trucks. Both of those are an international truck with the same basic body on there.
Okay. Well, it's good that you were able to get 4 different quotes.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion, we approve the International MB607 dump truck from Rush Trucking Center for $90,432. And that includes a 5-year engine warranty.
Second.
Motion is second. Excuse me. Motion is second. Are there any further comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposes? No one opposing. It seems the ayes have it. That motion carries. Thank you. Now we're at item number 8A. And it is, consider approval to confirm the recommended modification for Gloucester Street resurfacing project and have the city manager McDuffie communicate with Georgia Department of Transportation to finalize the project. Ms. McDuffie, you want to start this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. After the special call meeting, we basically took all of the comments and kind of looked at them to see what the concerns were of the commission, and tried to go back and look at the design that had been presented by DOT and incorporate as much as we could, or what we thought would be impactful to meet the concerns of the commission. And that's the information that I presented to you all in an email outlining what those changes were. I did subsequently talk to the DOT officials, Garrow and myself, and they were very cooperative. They were very, you know, I guess accepting of the fact that the commission had not had an opportunity to look at the design properly. And they were definitely willing to look at making some modifications or changing what was being proposed. You know, I know they are still, they asked, you know, that we kind of look at the timeline because they still are trying to keep their contractor in abeyance. And I can go through those modifications if you like, or just talk about comments if you would like from the commissioners, since that information has been sent out.
Just summarize, please.
Okay, I'm going to just go and again share my screen a little bit because it's helpful to me to be able to look at the information. And I'll just go through the designs. And what we tried to do was look at all the panels that DOT had presented, because they presented it kind of block by block, and they did make some changes, you know, that we felt that the commissioners, you all had given specific comments on. I want to start by, and this is basically what Garrow and I tried to do, was to look at each design and each panel and look at the concerns that you all had and take those into account. This is and it's kind of, unfortunately, it's a little bit upside down. I may be able to turn it around. Okay, this may help. Where we have from Oglethorpe Street, which they say Oglethorpe Street, this is Bay Street, over to Reynolds. And what I highlighted here was these angled parking. And this is, of course, the road diet design that goes from the 4 lanes to the 3 lanes. And they had added in the angled parking. And basically, we didn't make any changes to that area. But I did want to highlight to the commissioners that there was angled parking there. The bike trails did stop at this area because basically you don't want people backing out and having bike trails. So this would be the end of the biking right here at Reynolds Street, and the beginning, well, I think it ended a little bit before then, but the beginning of the angled parking that was recommended by DOT. Moving to the next panel, again, you have some angled parking that's added here. You have the road diet where the 3 lanes with the designated turn lane in the middle. And then you have a bike lane that's not a dedicated lane here, but it's a lane that's in conjunction with the driving lane, but it does have the bike symbols. And there were no changes that we recommended on those 2 areas. Moving forward, in looking at and trying to consider some of the concerns that you all had expressed, we looked at the parking that was designated here, which was parallel parking. And the only parking, none of this in yellow in these 2 areas, that's not any designated parking now. The only designated parking that they have now are these 3 spaces. And on this side, there were 4 spaces, but in the DOT design, they had taken that down to 1 space. And what we put in our modification was to open up all of this and have it as a 3 lane, but also have dedicated bike lanes on each side instead of I guess.
Get rid of the parking.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was the recommendation on that particular corridor area. And that goes from Norwich to Albany Street. And then on Albany, from Albany to Martin Luther King, this parking here, this is new parking that DOT had recommended. And what we asked was that the dedicated bike lanes be still around this area. So you'd have parking on the south side, but not on the north side. And then you'd still have a lane for biking on either side of this road. And that would take you a dedicated bike lane from Martin Luther King all the way to Norwich. Okay. And then at Martin Luther King, it would stay the same design as DOT had designed. And then we go from Martin Luther King here, this would change back to the 4 lanes. They would have a dedicated right lane here and then a straight lane here to have the 2 lanes go on the, I guess, the north side. And then on the south side, it would be a where the 1 lane would split into 2 lanes and go back to 4 lanes all the way over to Highway 17. And that would leave the, I guess, this would go back to a 4 lane as well. All of this would be 4 lanes. And then going back up to Lanier, and this has a lot to do with the design that we have with our contractor in this Lanier right away and the changes that we were making. And basically what we're looking at and asked the consultant to look at is to have only a dedicated right turn here and a left turn coming in off of Gloucester. So you have 2 lanes here, but 1 lane would be the coming in, the other one would be a right turn. The left lane, left turn off of Lanier would go this way. And one of the questions, and Gerald can speak a little bit more to this, but we were asking whether we would, because right now there's an ingress and an egress out of this westerly intersection. And we are asking the consultant whether we should only allow for a left turn out of here or keep the ingress and egress as it is now. So that's something that we are looking at and trying to make a final decision on, but that's our contractor, and they would only start after DOT finishes their work anyway. The lane changes that were proposed in our part of the contract would still be the same, where we would have 2 lanes turning out of Highway 17, out to Highway 17 North. And we would also have the 2 lanes coming in where you wouldn't have to squeeze the lane, the right turn off of 17 and a left turn off of 17 into 1 lane. You'd still have the 2 lanes here. But that's basically what we were proposing. And if I can look at my email, that was kind of to give some, I guess, answer some of the things that the commission had asked about. Yeah, this is the one I was looking for, where the concerns were the reduction of the 4 lanes, particularly at the intersection of Gloucester and Lanier, and then the incorporation of the road diets in the, as you get closer to downtown to slow down the traffic and to control the speeding in that area, kind of giving some more continuation of the bike lanes, some dedicated bike lanes, as well as bike lanes up until you get to, I think it's Union Street. And then looking at the parallel parking and angled parking. And again, these were things that we were trying to, I guess, address the commission's concerns. So in our conversation with DOT, as I stated, they were very cooperative, but they also still have their contractor kind of waiting in abeyance. And they wanted to make sure that they, we address concerns of the commission and wanted to move forward in a timely manner. So we did ask them to extend the project or not do anything for 30 days. And if we were to get some approval or final approval, then we would have time to go back and they would have time to do whatever re-engineering or redesign that they needed to do.
Thank you. Questions for our city manager? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'll chime in and say this, that I think Ms. McDuffie and Guerrero and those that work with her to, put this together. I think that it's workable and something that we should, consider.
Right. I also know there was a question about no public comment input. I know we asked for public input in our last meeting, asked them to get with the city manager, either our city engineer. I don't know whether it did or not. Ms. McDuffie, did you get any comments from anyone? I know you had a meeting with somebody.
I did not get anything from the public. I did speak briefly with the police chief, and again, he just expressed, that of course the parking downtown, the angled parking, that's always a concern. But when you're trying to slow down traffic and you have a downtown area, I think, we basically just talked about that. But I did not get any public comment.
Okay, did you speak with any public individuals concerning this as well?
No, I did not.
I know there was. I know I spoke with Mr. Woodside, and I also spoke with our state representative Don Hogan as well about this, and others who have contacted me. I'm sure other commissioners have been contacted as well. I know we got a letter. We received a letter from Scott Spence, which is the school superintendent, and I would just like to say, I really I'm glad he chimed in, but also he has school resource officers, and there may be sometimes that he can use some of his resource officers to help patrol the traffic going in and out from Lanier and Gloucester. That would be a great thing to do too as well, if we can do that. But I don't know how that would come in conflict with that traffic light that we have at Gloucester at 17. So, but anyhow, that's just something to look at. I'm glad he chimed in to give his input as well. And I also talked with others along the Gloucester, especially some of the business on Gloucester, and I told them what we were proposing, and they seem to be amenable to this change, but not the very first one. They was really not so confirming to what was presented, but now they say this seemed to be a lot better. Commissioners, do you have any comments with any individuals that you'd like to share?
Just had a couple of parents that their kids walk. They're the pedestrian traffic. So I asked some of the parents of some of the children that I know that walk, that are actually pedestrians, along that between I think, what is it? What's the street in Albany? Coming from First Baptist. That's Norwich.
Okay.
Between Norwich and Martin Luther King.
Right.
Those, I know a lot of the kids that walk that area, and so I spoke with their parents to see what their concern would be, as far as especially the Norwich Street area up to the Albany Street area, because that is not as open as the MLK sector is. And so they were amenable to the condensing and whatever measures could be put in place to slow traffic down, and to also put more precautions there in that area for those children that are walking in that area. When we talked about like the flashing beacons or whatever else. So they wanted to see more stuff like that. And they were also amenable to condensing that area so that it could somehow slow the traffic down that would be feeding from Glen Academy onto Gloucester between those areas.
Right.
And also I want to say this too, the up by turning off of Gloucester onto 17, we need to make sure that that the lane that's coming off of 17 and that's making that left going into the downtown area, where the other feeder lane feeds into it as well, which they're going to be doing whatever they're doing with that. But the lane coming off of 17, making that left onto Gloucester, when you're coming from downtown and you're in your lane to continue on across and then make your left, people think that's a 2-lane for them to come up. Because I had somebody alongside me yesterday from Forsyth County, and they just came up just like it was 2 lanes to go north onto 17. And so I just blew the horn at them and flashed my lights and let them get on over before the other traffic started coming from the other way. So we need to make sure that they understand that is not a 2-lane turning unless we're about to do that.
I think better striping would do that too, would help that really, and better crosswalks too for up on Norwich and to get across Gloucester Street too.
And we'll
Yes.
have our consultant, once DOT finishes their project, that end of the project will be put back as it is now. And so then our consultant will design that second turn lane onto Highway 17, and we'll come in behind GDOT and widen that intersection and install that additional turn lane. So I think that the turn lane will be there then. So I think that will take care of that.
Okay, I was gonna say, because they making them one now.
And Mayor Pro Tem, I wanted to note that the police chief did express some concerns about the students and the pedestrians and asked that some modifications be made to the traffic intersection. So I'll make sure that we properly communicate that to DOT if we go forward.
Okay, and that's also, and I do like also what Mayor Harvey said too. If there can be some resources from the school board as well to kind of monitor or help monitor that traffic, because I mean they do know their children are coming from Glen Academy and feeding their traffic onto Gloucester. So if they can station some resource officers at those intersections, then I mean that would be a good partnership.
Yes.
You know, there's another thing at Highway 17. When you're going south there, you have that veer off to Gloucester Street, but you've got 3 lanes there at that red light. Something needs to be done with that partial right-hand lane there. That is really a racetrack right there at different times. And I will say this again, I don't think, in my opinion, we don't have a problem with Gloucester Street. We've got a problem with Highway 17 is what we've got, and Lanier Boulevard. And that's really what I see that we've got. And I do not think it's right for us to go ahead with this thing the way it is. I don't have a problem with submitting these changes to them and asking them to draw them up, but I really strongly encourage us to have a public comment period on this thing and ask the Georgia Department of Transportation for reasonable time to do that. This is, again, the only 4-lane ingress egress we've got. We've got plenty of space for bicycling, plenty of it. I know I'm going to get some reaction when I say this, but when you get on a bicycle most of the time today, you've got time. You can use Windsor Park, you can use G Street. You don't have to bicycle on Gloucester Street. And something else we could consider doing, that asphalt path that we just made an environmental encasement out of, we could also put a bike path across there to our walking path and a bike path that way. You could do it there. You don't have to do this on Gloucester Street. You do not. You've done it to 4th Ave. 4th Avenue is not as traveled as it is. People going into downtown Brunswick, the people that are going to work need those lanes down there. I can see the benefit of picking up the parking down there. And that's why I say I think we need to put this on public comment. I would have thought that we would have come back with something perhaps at a first Friday and had some people to weigh in on their thoughts. This to me is just too early to go back and say this is what we want to do. I don't know how long Gloucester Street's been 4-lane, But listen, we can see on George Street over, it doesn't take long to take up asphalt. So we need to ask for a respectful amount of time for our community to weigh in on these changes and give them something positive. This is the way it's going to be. This is what you're going to live with. Golly, who knows how long. Hopefully that will be considered here by this commission.
Thank you, Commissioner Cason, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any other comments?
What would be the easiest way to facilitate something? I'm not sure. I mean, well, we are coming towards the end of April, but I mean, I would think if we didn't have to wait for a first Friday and we could offer an opportunity to post something online, and if people can, you know, have a time limit that they have to respond or make comments. And then at our first meeting in May, if we're still within the time period that we were granted with DOT, would we be?
You know, Julie, I don't think we should be. We've been waffling as it is on this, and we really found out that we were the delay. We kind of didn't go through the process correctly with us. It wasn't on DOT, it's us, and DOT is really extending an olive branch to us to allow us to make these changes, and also for a delay. I think when we submit this letter, there still is a 30-day wait. We submit this letter. If we get any significant comments, we can go and send those in just as well, and they will be considered. We also asked our public to take a look and also to chime in, and some did, and we as commissioners, we went out and galvanized some of the people too as well. So I think our public had opportunity to chime in, and they still do have opportunity to actually chime in, and they have been talking about it, and we had an extensive meeting concerning it, and I think we went over everything with a fine-tooth comb, and I think our public, if they have some issues or whatever, they can still chime. They still have time to chime in, but I think we need to get our letter in so they can consider and know that we are not just waffling back and forth with this project for DOT. That's my comments.
I don't see it that way, that we're waffling back and forth. Some people knew that this was going to happen long ago, and it was not communicated. And this is serious, going out there and tearing up Lanier Boulevard. I just don't, the road's been out there for how long? Does anybody know?
No, sir, I do not.
Well, I think we need to consider that. And I don't see why in the world we have to rush out there. What is the emergency? What is the problem with asking them to defer this thing? Please tell me.
Well, if you have the concern about Lanier Boulevard is our project. It's not the DOT part. So that
I'm saying Gloucester Street, Regina. I'm not being critical. I'm saying let's set a time limit, ask them not to do anything, take these suggestions we've made, give us some concrete drawings, and let's let the people weigh in on it. Do they really want a bicycle path out there on Gloucester Street right now? Do they really? I'm asking that question.
I don't know, but
all this stuff got started. That's exactly where it got started. Is bicycling, and you can go through Windsor Park and drive around the circle out there on your bicycle. You can go down G Street.
Well, I think one of the things how I got started, Commissioner Cason got started with us trying to soften, slow down the traffic coming to our downtown. And we have
enforcement.
And we have done that with what's been presented to DOT. DOT saw it, they decided to do something. We didn't like it. So now we had an opportunity to.
Well, I wish you'd shared it a lot sooner than what you did. And again, my case is the community needs some serious time to think.
I think the community is having time to do that, and they still have time to.
Well,
make
you're one person, okay?
Excuse me?
I say you're one person. I feel.
Well,
that-
so are you. You're one person as well.
That's what
You're
I'm
one
at.
person.
Okay.
You're one
Mr.
person.
Mayor.
Your comment is being well received, Commissioner Casey.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
to answer Commissioner Cason's question, is part of this is the city's fault because DOT communicated with individuals from the city who did not communicate with the commission. Therefore, we have the situation that we have now. It's not DOT's fault that they didn't communicate with us. So, I mean, we can't lay the blame on the DOT.
I'm not laying the blame. There's no blame.
Let him
This is
speak,
done.
Commissioner Casey. Let him speak now.
This is done.
Commissioner Williams.
And
continue
my thing is this, I think the DOT is and has and is still trying to work with us, but we can't keep dragging and kicking the ball down the street and saying, well, give us a little more time to do this and a little more time to do that. They've asked us to present something to them. They've got that. They got their people going back to do drawings and prepare this thing so that we'll be able to move forward. And so we can't keep kicking the ball down the street.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, and to Commissioner Cason's comments or whatever, our next meeting is 2 weeks from now. And that may be problematic for DOT, and may be problematic for us. I really think us giving this letter to DOT at this moment, then if we have some issues, basically we still can have input from our public. If there's some significant issues, something that significantly we need to change, then we can always make that change before they actually do it. But I think that, to keep this contract at the forefront is to go ahead and submit this letter. That's just my opinion. And I respectfully respect Commissioner Cason's opinion as well. Any further comments, commissioners? All right, this request is before us, and it is the request that approval to recommend modifications for Gloucester Street resurfacing project, and have our city manager communicate to Department of Transportation to help finalize the project. That's what we're here considering, and so we have discussed this amongst ourselves in a long, drawn-out meeting before, and we made some modifications. We made some significant modifications, as a matter of fact. And our city manager and our city engineer to be commended for taking our inputs and also the inputs that was given by others to draft the way it's being presented to DOT. Also,
can we perhaps make a motion that we would approve the modifications that we've made, which I think are good. I think a lot of time has been spent reviewing them and looking at them and really thinking about the businesses and the community along the whole length of Gloucester. So could we do it conditional upon, go ahead and approve it conditional upon any further comments from the public?
Yes.
That might have merit to be considered.
Yes.
At least that way people can still speak up if they so choose, but we still are able to get this in front of DOT.
How much time do we have to do this? That's what I have not heard that to this point. And that's what gets me. It really does. I've come right out pretty strong about not doing anything to Gloucester Street. We wanted something done on Lanier Boulevard, thinking that Highway 17 really is our real problem up there, not Gloucester Street. And I'm sort of taken aback that here I am tonight being asked to approve what we sat here and went over. I just don't think it's the right way to move forward for the only road we've got out there with 4 lanes on it. I just don't believe it's right. And I think we could celebrate more too, because I do see some positive things towards west, you know, with what we're doing here. I think it would get us a lot more thought in this community if we let the folks see how good this plan really is. You know, it does have some merit for places. Why are we rushing this thing? Why are we saying that we're at GDOT's submission? We're not. We need to ask for the time that we need to get this thing in our community. There's some good stuff to it. Let's advertise it.
I think we have done those things.
I really don't. My opinion is we don't.
Okay, thank you.
I haven't had enough time to massage it.
Okay.
And I've got a feeling the people that live in Windsor Park and the people that live in Urbana Park maybe haven't had enough time to really massage it either. Most of those are working kind of people. So I don't see what's wrong with asking the Georgia Department of Transportation to give us some time to be sure we get this thing right. No guessing.
All right, thank you for your comment, Commissioner Kaysen. I like Commissioner Martin. I like your proposed motion. So if you want to, you can go ahead and make that motion.
I will make the motion that we approve the Georgia Department of Transportation's plans to pave and restripe Gloucester Street based on city's recommendations and changes and modifications, leaving open a time for the public to still make comments and those comments to be considered.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Are there any other comments? Commissioner Casey, you want to go ahead and make a comment or you wait?
I think we need to know how much time we can buy before we do this. And I think our city manager should be asking that question. As adamant as I've been about this.
Yes, sir.
I'm the person that has used Gloucester Street longer than anybody else that I know of on this commission. And
is it because you're older than everybody else now?
Quite thoroughly. By the way, I'm laughing too. But
I am too.
I'm buying that time for other people that have used it just like I have too. And I think we need to just say, hey, we need some time, you know.
All right,
make some time there that your motion is we're going to ask for.
Okay, thank you for your comment, Commissioner Casey. Anyone else got a comment?
Mayor, I'd like to just, I mean, we've had this, I guess each discussion that we've had has been in the paper. So I'm assuming that the newspaper will pick up from our meeting tonight. And if Mr. Jackson would, you know, implore to the public to please, you know, call in and ask questions in regards to the decision that has been made, then certainly, you know, we'll take those as expediently as we can and look at if there's any significant, you know, considerations that need to be taken to get, you know, to DOT. But I guess at this point, they were having a difficulty because the contract has been let. And we did ask them not to do any work for 30 days. And it's at you all's discretion if you want to ask for more time.
You know, please let the Islander be involved with any communication also, Regina.
Yes, I agree, Commissioner Casey. They are part of our community. This is a whole community, and everyone uses the island comes to downtown to work. Our population, daytime population swells. So, and you're right, everybody be considered. But we have a motion. Any further comments?
We're not going to put a time limit that we're going to ask them for in this motion. Is that correct?
We have a motion, and the motion was not about a time limit, Commissioner Casey.
We're in the mercy of the Georgia.
Can I say this right here?
We're at the mercy of the Georgia Department of Transportation. Is that correct?
That's your comment, Commissioner Casey. I don't know. Commissioner Williams, you got a comment?
Yeah, so from what Ms. Regina, what our city manager just said, that they've granted us 30 days already.
Okay.
Well, yes, they did.
Did we
All right.
ask for more?
What'd you say? I didn't hear you.
I think we should ask for more.
Okay.
It's our road.
Yes, your
Is
comment
it-
is considered.
We're
All right,
No,
hey,
it's-
I'm gonna
Their
cut the
road,
comment.
it's just through our city.
I'm gonna cut the comments off right now. Commissioner Casey, your comments have been well documented and well received. Commissioner Williams, yours as well. City manager, and also the ones who, I guess my comment as well has been documented. So it's been motion and second. All in favor, please say, oh no, excuse me. Madam Clerk, call the roll for me, please.
Commissioner Kason, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Martin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Harvey, how do you vote?
Yes. All right, that motion carries unanimously. I noticed that, excuse me, no, it carries 4-1, excuse me, I didn't mean to say unanimous. 4-1, Commissioner Kason voting in the negative on that.
I'm very positive that we're doing the wrong thing.
I apologize, Commissioner Kason, I mean to say you're negative.
I'm not negative. There's no way I could be construed.
Well, you voted in opposition to what the
Right,
everyone else voted to.
It's a positive situation too.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Were there any other thing to bring before this commission before we ask for executive session? Is there any need for executive session?
Yes, for litigation.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn from regular session to executive session for litigation.
Second.
Motion second for us to leave our regular session to go to executive session for litigation. Are there any further comments? Being all in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. Who oppose? You have the same right? No opposed? Okay. We will relieve our, go out of our regular session and go into executive session. And afterwards, we will come back and adjourn our meeting. Okay. I'll see you guys in executive session.
You're muted, Mayor.
I was muted, but I'm back. Okay, is all my commissioners on board?
I'm here.
Naomi, everybody here?
Yeah.
Looks like it.
Okay,
Where's Kason?
Commissioner Kason's not on yet.
we give him a second. He loves to, I don't want to just exclude him from anything.
Somebody just added.
Here he comes.
Okay. Commissioner Kason, you here?
I'm
He's
here.
muted.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner Kason. Hey, everybody's here. Jay's here. We're all here now. Okay, Commissioner, we'll come to the end of our regular meeting agenda. We had an executive session. No votes were taken or anything, just comments on litigation. So with that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
I got a second to our adjournment. Any further comments or questions? Anybody want to say anything before we adjourn? Hearing none. Excuse me?
I was just gonna say, I just want to say to our city attorney, we appreciate all your hard work and don't think that it doesn't go unnoticed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Bye-bye.
Aye, aye. All
Good
right,
night.
and everybody say bye.
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 Bye,
Bye.
bye.